Hello, my name is Gary, and I was raised in the Western United States, so I'm a native English speaker. I hope that you will enjoy this YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us.
IELTS Writing Samples. The charts below give information about travel to and from the UK and about the most popular countries for UK residents to visit. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Visits to and from the UK. Most popular countries visited by UK residents, 1999. The chart shows the number of international tourists who visited the UK and British residents who traveled outside from 1979 to 1999. The data shows the 5 countries where UK citizens traveled most in 1999. Overall, the number of international tourists to the UK continued to increase after 1989, and more UK people traveled outside the UK than the number of tourists the UK received. According to the graph, around 10 million international tourists traveled to the UK. The number of UK residents traveling outside was 2 to 3 million more, 12 to 13 million. Both numbers increased gradually till 1986, and after that, the number of UK citizens traveling abroad increased dramatically. The number of tourists the UK received also continued increasing and reached over 25 million in 1999, while more than 50 million people traveled outside. The number of UK visitors to other countries was almost double the number of people coming to the UK to visit. The second bar graph shows the countries that UK citizens traveled to in 1999. France was their favorite destination, where more than 10% of tourists traveled in 1999. The second most visited country by UK residents was Spain, where around 8% of all UK tourists traveled. Other countries visited by UK tourists were the United States, Greece, and Turkey, where less than 5% of UK tourists traveled in 1999. The charts below give information about USA marriage and divorce rates between 1970 and 2000, and the marital status of adult Americans in 2 of the years. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. The first bar chart shows changes in the number of marriages and divorces in the United States, and the second chart shows the marital status of American adults in each of 1970 and 2000. Overall, there was a clear downward trend of people getting married in the U.S. during the years surveyed. From 1970 to 1980, 2.5 million marriages were registered in America. However, this number gradually decreased to 2 million by 2000. In contrast, the number of divorces was around 1 million in 1970 and then peaked at nearly 1.5 million a decade later. Since then, there have been fewer divorces, and the number dropped to 1 million in 2000, exactly 50% of the marriages that same year. The proportion of married American adults dropped from 70% in 1970 to around 60% in 2000. Similarly, the rate of widows also decreased slightly. The figures of never married and divorced people slightly rose around 8% for each category.
The chart below shows the value of one country's exports in various categories during 2015 and 2016. The table shows the percentage change in each category of exports in 2016 compared with 2015. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. The bar graph compares a country's export earnings in billions of dollars from 5 different product categories in 2015 and 2016, while the table data outlines the percentage change in export amounts in 2016 compared to previous years. It is worth noting that export revenues in all but one of the 5 product categories increased the periods presented. While petroleum products were the highest earning export in both years, the textile industry had the most significant earnings growth. Export earnings from petroleum products increased from about $61 billion in 2015 to $63 billion in 2016, an increase of 3%. Income from engineered goods reached a similar level. The country's export earnings from these goods increased 8.5% to approximately $62 billion in 2016. From 2015 to 2016, export revenues from textiles increased 15.24%, with income rising from about $25 billion to over $30 billion. In contrast, the amount of money collected from agricultural products had remained almost unchanged, still at just over $30 billion. Finally, the only decline in income occurred in the gems and jewelry products group, where export earnings fell about 5% to approximately $40 billion in 2016. The graph and table below give information about water use worldwide and water consumption in 2 different countries. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. The line graph shows the amount of water used for agriculture, industry, and homes around the world, while the table compares water use in Brazil and the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2000. It is clear that global water demand increased significantly between 1900 and 2000, and agriculture accounted for the largest proportion of water use. We can also see that water consumption in Brazil was considerably higher than in Congo. In 1900, around 500 kilometers squared of water was used by agriculture worldwide, while industrial and domestic water consumption accounted for about 1/5 of that amount. By 2000, global agricultural water use had increased by approximately 3,000 kilometers squared. Industrial water use had risen to almost half that amount, and domestic consumption had reached approximately 500 kilometers cubed. In 2000, the population of Brazil and Congo was 176 million and 5.2 million respectively. The per capita water consumption in Brazil was 359 meters cubed, much higher than in Congo, which was only 8 meters cubed. And this could be explained by the fact that Brazil had 265 times more irrigated land area. The graphs show figures relating to hours worked and stress levels amongst professionals in 8 groups. Two graphs provide different information related to 8 professional groups. The bar chart shows the number of weekly hours performed by the group, while the pie graph illustrates the percentage of people suffering from stress-related illness in the different occupations. Overall, businessmen worked the longest among the 8 groups, while lecturers worked the least for a week. According to the pie chart, lecturers struggle the most with work-related stress. Although their average work hours are smaller than the other groups in the chart, lecturers experience the highest level of stress caused by their jobs. The bar graph shows that businessmen and film producers work the most, at about 70 hours and 62 hours per week, respectively. At the opposite end of the scale, lecturers only work around 25 hours. Working hours of other professionals vary widely, with doctors, writers, programmers, lawyers, and chefs. They work approximately 52, 46, 35, and 32 hours per week in the name ordered. The pie graph shows that the occupation with the highest incidence of stress-related illness is lecturers at 25%. Movie producers and doctors also have high rates with 18% and 15% each. The figures for businessmen, lawyers, chefs, and writers can be grouped into percentages ranging from 11 to 8%. The lowest rate of stress disease belongs to programmers, only 5%, which is a fifth the rate of lecturers.